Hello friends, this is Ganesh and video number 3 on ABAP. So this is a continuation of the previous one about declarative keywords. So last video I explained till the data and the parameters, introduction about parameters. So just a quick recap, data is nothing but it's a declarative keyword. Suppose if you want to have any variable to be declared in your program, so you need a declarative keyword. So one is data. Data is a keyword which the variable can be used within the program and the value to be assigned within the program. So for that scenarios, we have to go with the data. Simple example is holding a final result or holding any data throughout the program. So everything, the value is to be decided or manipulated within the program itself, not outside of the program. So that scenarios we go with data. And parameter is the second declarative keyword. This keyword will create an input screen based on the particular declaration. Suppose you need 5 input boxes, then you have to go with parameter keyword. I need a radio button, option button, check boxes or list boxes. So these are the screen component where the value is to be received at the runtime or from the user side. So those kind of variables to be declared under parameters keyword. So last video I used this example. I believe almost similar. So I need two numbers. So the idea would be I'm going to get the number, two values from or through the input screen from the user, and I need one more variable. This variable to be the value to be determined within the program. So I used data keyword. In another simple reference, I can say input variables are declared using parameters. Output variables means within the program is going to be declared using data variable. Just for a reference, I'm saying. Okay, so input and then output. So here data output, not only for output, for other manipulations as well. So here data is for, the answer is under data keyword. So if you execute, what happens, it will create two input boxes. So if you declare any variable with the type of any of the data type, type C, type N, or type P, whatever it is, it creates an input box. Okay, so normal syntax type, if you use type, it creates an input box. Okay, and the right statement, the result. So in this session, we are going to see about input box, furthermore about input box with the help of type. And if you want to design or create a radio button or option button, so select one, right, option button. And for that, we need a keyword called radio button group. And if you want a checkbox, you need a keyword checkbox. And list box, you need a keyword list box. These are the partial declaration, but the statement starts with parameters. So parameter number 1 type I, or parameter radio button 1 radio button group, and parameters C1 as checkbox, parameter L1 as list box. So like that. Along with that, we are going to see few more options. I mentioned last two videos about the activation. I will give an example about the activation, why the activation is required. And text elements, we are going to see about text elements because we are into the input screen level. So we need some text to be displayed in the screen. So we are going to use text elements. And default and obligatory. Default is nothing but the replacement of value keyword. So value keyword, if you want to assign a value to a data variable, use a keyword value. If you want to assign any default variable for your input component, your parameter variable, then use default. So functionality wise, value and default are doing the same thing. And obligatory is nothing but mandatory. So if you want to make any one of the input field as mandatory, you have to use a keyword called obligatory. So this is about today's. Okay, we have one more. Before going to tables, I would like to introduce conditional and looping in ABAP. Excuse me. So conditional, we have two statements, if and nf, and case and n case. Okay, so if inside you have other two keywords, else if and else, here everything is a block. If you open a if, you have to conclude with end if. Okay, you don't have any open parenthesis, close parenthesis. Everything is an English keyword only. So if you can block and end with end if. So inside if and end if, you can use else if and else. Same way you have case, end case. So between these two, you can use when or others. So else and others are same. Do and undo. So inside you can use continue, exit and check, the same way while and end while. So these are for looping. So I'm planning to show you till this conditional looping along with the parameters in this session. And one more is operators. Okay, so you have two options. Either you can use an alphabet or you can use an operator directly. So equal, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and not equal to. Clear? Fine. Let's see the system. So this is my system. Let me log in. Is it 38 for ABAP editor? Program for parameters. So if it is available, it will take. Otherwise, it says no match as found. That's fine. Create program for parameters, conditions and loops. Type is executable. Rest all optional, so you can skip. Save. Time being, go with local object until we come to know what is the use of package. So here I need two values. So parameters, number one, type I, number two, type I. Okay. So data, result, type I. Okay. So result is equal to, this is actually the previous one, number one plus, I'll just complete quickly, number two, right, result is the variable. Okay, so data object, technically we call it as. Activate and execute. So with the help of parameters, it creates an input screen with two input boxes. So 10, 20, further execute F8. So we'll say result is 30. Okay. Now I'm going to introduce obligatory over here. Obligatory is nothing but mandatory and default. Okay, so both are different keywords. So default is 30. So the first field should be mandatory. Without that, you're not able to execute further without entering the value. And number two, as I'm default, I'm going to pass a value as 30. So maximum, this is the value is going to be used in the input screen. So we used a default keyword, but the value can be editable at runtime. So every change you have to activate, save, check and activate. Make sure your object is active to proceed further. So execute. Here you're able to see a small red color mark. Okay. So previously, or if you are in an older version of the ABAP component, this obligatory defines a tick mark inside this particular input box, but you have to take out the cursor out. So if you take out the cursor, previous versions I'm talking about, you're not able to find a red star in that versions, so you're able to see only the tick mark. So the tick mark defines, okay, this is a mandatory field. So without passing any value, I'm trying to execute F8. So it shows clearly fill out all required entry fields. Okay, so like view details. So what are the it shows what is happening, just an example or a help for your error message. Just close it. So now I need to change, I have to enter some value to the mandatory option. So 20 and 30 is a default one. If you want, you can keep as it is or you can change, and keep as it is for this example. Execute, it's just 50. Okay, so go back, and if you change something, if you want, you can change to 30. Okay, then let me go with 40. Just execute, it will give the answer. Okay, so this is about obligatory and default. So you can have a number of screen components. So depends on your, excuse me, sorry, depends on your business requirement. Now, as I mentioned already, parameter keyword or parameter variable, the maximum length is only 8 characters. Okay, but parameters means it's going to be directly interact with the client or the end user. So number one, number two is okay for the program level, but the user wants very crispy statements. What needs to be entered? Enter the material number, enter the sales order number. So same way we need to give some statements. So we can give that statements over here because it has only 8 characters. Okay, and I can have a variable and the statement is the same name. Enter the first number. I can keep that name as a variable. That is not, it's not good way of writing the ABAP code because we have some restrictions or ABAP naming conventions. So if there is a parameter, normally naming convention, maybe I can start working with the naming convention level P. Okay, so parameter means it should start with P. So I can say P num1. So P num2. Okay. So it's easy to start. So even if you start practicing it, start practicing with the generic ABAP or standard SAP naming conventions. Okay. So P underscore num1. Most of the clients follow the same. P underscore num1, P underscore num2. So I need to do the same over here. P underscore num1 and P underscore num2. Some relevant about your program and the final result. So if you want, you can keep like this. It's a global variable. So gv underscore result. Okay, gv underscore result. So this is my program, but the user wants a statement in your input screen. For example, if you execute, what happens? It shows p underscore num1, p underscore num2. So this is not relevant for user. For that, I'm going to introduce a concept called selection text that is coming under text element. Okay, so that is called selection text. That's coming under text element. So for the text element, you have to use more go to. If you're on an older version, you'll get a menu bar. In the menu bar, you have a menu called go to. The name is go to. Use the same option. If you click the option, you will say go to text elements, and one more sub menu will display. There you have option called selection text. Okay, but here is a new one. So I have only text elements. Just click. It will take you to the same screen. Okay. And here the middle option is, this is a text symbols, we'll see quite later. And here we are going to use selection test. If you go to selection test, it will display whatever parameter variable, not the data variable, because data variable is not for input screen. It listed all the parameter variable you declared in your program. So now you can assign a text for it. For example, enter the first number, enter the second number. Got it? Save it. Okay. And here there is no check option available because it doesn't have any syntax. Check is especially to check the syntax error. It is just a statement. Yeah, it has only the statement. So it doesn't do anything with the syntax. So no check is required. Save and activate. Okay. Now I'm going to give an example for activate. What is activate? So here it's inactive, meaning I didn't activate this. Okay. I saved it, but I didn't activate it. Go back. This program is active, execute. So the value or the text is not reflected here. So the meaning, these are independent objects in SAP, or if further down in ABAP, we have a lot of independent objects. So table or program, screens, text symbols, okay, everything is an independent object. It has its own window to create or manage whatever it is. So once you done with your development, a program, or example here is program and text elements, okay, you have to activate your object. So meaning once you activate, then only it's able to access by some other element or some other object. Suppose from a program I'm going to call a table, from a program I'm going to call another program, and this example, from the program I'm going to call or I'm going to utilize the selection text. That is a different object, but till the object is not active, those changes are not reflected in another object. Okay, so that is the need of activation. Activation says this active is ready to use by another object or another window. Clear? So now I'm going again to the text symbols. So go the selection text, go to text elements, selection text, and activate it. So now you can see So you know about the window. Let's enter. Here it shows active. So this object, selection text object, is active. So go back to your program. You have to come back to your program and execute. You can execute from your text symbols and execute. So now you can able to see enter the first number, enter the second number. So this is the need of text elements or selection text. Okay. Hope you're able to follow. Now I'm going to add a radio button here. So radio button R1, you can give anything. Normally we start with R or R1. Example, I'm giving R1, R2. Real time we start with R underscore some relevant name. Okay. So R1 radio button group. So here what you can do is control space bar. It gives an option. What are the options available? So you have a checkbox, you have a list box, search pattern, decimals, default, and everything. So now I need a radio button. So here obligatory and radio button. So no display. I will give that as well. So radio button group. Okay. And give some name for it. I can say G1. Okay. And then I want, you can go ahead with the same single line. But for a good readability, I just go with the line by line. G2. And I'm sorry. It's G1. Okay, and R3 radio button group G1. So what is a group? Is radio button means it should be select by only one. User can select only one from the group. So I'm going to define to the system R1, R2, R3 belongs to same group. That's why I have to give the same group name. This R1 and G1 are user defined names. You can give whatever name you want. Whatever you are seeing in the blue color, those are ABAP keywords. Okay. Suppose I want another two set of radio buttons with a different group. So I can say R11, R12. So I want it 2 is enough. So now what I have to do was I have to give a name G2. Okay. Let's see how it's displayed. Activate, execute. F8 for execute. So here R1, R2, R3 belongs to one group and R11, R12 belongs to one group. Okay. And again, if you want to give a name, go to selection text. All the parameter variable are listed in the selection text. So let's see little later. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the checkbox as well. Let's give everything in one shot. Parameter C1 control space bar as checkbox. Okay. This doesn't have a group because checkbox can have at the same time more than one can be selected. So it is not belongs to any group. So C3 as checkbox. Okay. Let's see how it's display in the input stream. Activate every change. Make sure you are activating your program. C1, C2, C3. Able to activate. Finally, I'm going to have a list box. So chain operator is not required if it is only one. So L1 as list box. It has a visible length. Okay, for list box because list box normally is little lengthier than your content. Otherwise, you will get a drop down arrow mark. It will uh, disable or it will hide your particular content. So that's why visible length is required. So I want visible length 20. Okay, and here I'm saying default select. Maybe the first item in the list box. I will tell you how to add a content in the list box quite later. So here the first step we are learning how to design your variables with the help of declarative keywords. Okay, so activate and execute. This is okay. I did a mistake. Only one character is allowed because I didn't give the memory means how many length I want. So I can say L of 10. Okay. For radio and checkbox is not required. So now it says selects. Okay. So same thing even for here as well. So let me have that also. um, name p underscore name type c. So what happens by default? It will take. Oh, sorry. By default, it takes only one space for the character. So f8, it gives only one. Okay. So if you want a more, you have to say I need at least 30. Then depends on that, it will generate the input box f8. So it creates. Okay. So a few data types, integer, float, and date, time, these are by default, they will take their own memory size, I can say. But character, numeric, packed, so these things you have to give. Okay, otherwise it will take the default value. So default value character is only one, numeric is only 1 0, so one space, I can say character is a blank, one blank space, numeric is 1 0, so that way it will take. Okay. So now if you want to add a name for each selection text, means parameter variable, go to selection text. Here everything is listed out, C1, C2, C3, L1. Okay. So I'm not going to fill everything. So here I can say employee name. Okay. So here R1, R2, R3 is one, R11, R2 belongs to another group. So I can say order type 1, order type. So our basic example for option button is male and female, right? The same way over here is order type 1 on order type 2. Rest all you just fill it and execute it. Make sure you activate it. Yes, it's coming here on employee name, order type 1, order type 2. Okay, we'll see how to add a list box over here. So this is about the parameters. So parameter is a keyword, especially to design an input screen. Depends on your declaration, it creates the different input components. Okay. So we have some more components also. We have a range. That is all coming on a selection screen concept. Okay. We'll see quite later. And a no display. There are some options. Suppose if you don't want to display any particular component, so just control space bar, you'll get all the options. So whatever is possible, whatever is not possible, try. But it depends on your what do you call business requirement, business need, you can able to add it. So normally we used modify id for this kind of parameter, user command. So one specific option user command is it creates the event. Okay. I will take the user command once you come the screen concept, I mean selection screen or a module pool. So one line about user command is it's event, click event, right? So click the button, it's an event. So what needs to be done? Same way you are able to change the radio button as an event. So instead of now what I have to say is you have to select R1 and execute. So two things you have to do, select and execute. If you make any event enabled for your checkbox or your radio button, once you select, automatically the event triggers. So you have to write the code for it. So you can use a user command for it. Okay. So I believe no display is not applicable for this component. So let me try here. Employee name. Yes. So there are some restrictions. Okay. So you come to know. Control F3 for activate. And execute. I'm expecting employee name box should not be displayed. It's gone. There are some scenarios we have to keep some of the input box as a no display mode. Okay. Just play around with all the additions, whatever it's displayed if you say control space bar. So every component has its own additions. So now I'm going to show you, let me check anything to be added over here. Yeah, nothing much. I'll just come back to the same kind of set of coding to explain about modify ID. So how to disable R1, any input component depends on the scenarios. Okay. So please be patient. Once there are some, I'm just going in the actual order or the syllabus of ABAP, so everything will come and explain. Okay. So I will just explain that as well. So it depends on if I R1 selected, I want only two input box enable. R3 selected, another two input box enable, and this is disabled. So those things also will play around. So now we are going to, so before that we need to understand the loop, if and everything, right? So we'll go with that. If conditions, if case. So if any keyword in ABAP has a block, so if and if case and case, it'll automatically give a symbol for you. You don't want to write it. So like if you're able to see, if it'll be the few seconds only, it'll be enable only for a few seconds. If, and there is a symbol over here, it comes right. So for that, immediately you have to uh, click tab. If tab, it comes. Okay. Same way case statement, case tab. So wherever there is a block, that symbol will enabled. Okay, this is also depends on your versions. I believe most 99% people are working in ECC, not in 4.7 or 4.6. So those days we don't have this. We have to write it. We have to type it. Okay, so now it's more sophisticated. So let's see one by one. I don't want this, so I have to comment it. You know what is a comment? I mean shortcut for comment. Control, comma. Commented it. Let me have this. What I'm going to do is first one, right? What is the number? So p underscore num1, okay, is equal to, or I can say greater than 10, okay, and I can write. So this is category category one, okay. Else if, you can say else if, so there is no space between else and if. Else if p num1 is less than 10, I can say write. You can have a number of else if, so depends on your requirement. Category 2, and finally I go with else. Okay, else write not belongs to any category. So this won't, I think, yeah, for 10 it will, I think the else will come because I didn't use equal, just greater and less than. I didn't use anything greater than or equal, less than or equal. So this will work only if the value of num1 is 10. Okay. Yeah. And activate it. Here, end if is for if, not for else if or not for else. So don't try to close else if as well. So it won't be available. So end if is only for if, not for else if and else. You can have n number of else if and, sorry, you can have n number of else if between your if and end if. Okay, but you can have only one else. Now let me do it. Activate it, execute it. I can say 12. Execute. So it shows category 1. It's not in the next line. If you want the next line, put a slash. Okay. And if it is less than 10, category 2. And if you say 10, not belongs to any category. So this is for if. Okay. Now I want to know the value. I think last session I explained, I'm not sure. The value of option button, selected option button is generally we call it as true if not false. Here the value for true is capital X and value for false is empty space, one empty space. Okay, and same for checkbox. If it is C1 is selected, value of the particular variable, parameter variable is X, capital X. Okay. And list box, once I come to, I'll explain how to add a value. From there, you come to know what is the value of it. It's simple. List box has two categories actually. One is key, another one is text. So key is for programming purpose, text is for display purpose. Okay, and the simple example is executable program. While creating a program, the window you have executable program. If you see executable program, there is some value behind it for the programming. So based on that, it will go to the next step. Maybe 1, 2, 3, depends on the how they designed it. Okay. So let's see the value. So the value is, So now R1 is X, R2, R3 is empty, and order type is X, and order type 2 is empty. So based on that, I'm going to write a code. So here what I'm going to do is same. I'm going to use another if statement. If you can have nested if also, like this, if and if. Simply I'm writing, so don't worry about if 1 equal to 1. So if, and inside you can have another if. Okay, so things are possible. So now I'm going to say if, what is that, R1 equal to capital X, make sure, because it's case sensitive. If it is small, it won't execute the particular block. If R1 is selected, I can say R1 is selected. Okay, or you can write else if R2 equal to X. So I don't want to use the same thing for again and again. So it's a simple. We'll move on to the next one. R2 is selected. So if you want, you can keep else and everything. Okay, R1 is selected, R2 is selected. Okay, let me have a slash for the next line. After slash, space is not required. So R1 is selected, execute. Okay, fill out. Okay, I missed the mandatory. 10, execute. So now it shows R1 is selected. Okay, so same thing for R2. R2 is selected. You can do the same for checkbox as well. So if you want checkbox C1 and C2, C1 and C3, it depends on the probability. You can write your own. Okay, let me do that as also. And then or if C1 equal to X and C2 equal to X. Okay, uh, just do some write statement. So next I'm going to like if C1, C1 equal to X, and I can have a condition like this, C2 equal to X and C3 is not equal to X. So depends. So how much logical complex logic conditions if you want, you can do it. Okay, or I can say or. Sorry, or. Okay, so this, and so you consider this is one condition, you have to use the bracket. Okay, either you can use not equal like this, or you can use not equal like this. So not only not equal, anywhere if you want, you can use change the operator. Okay, so like C1 equal to, so I can say EQ. Yeah, so inside write how whatever things you want. The next one is case statement. So case, okay, I already have it right. Let me use that uncomment. You can use the case in two different ways. Okay, like you can reverse actually the syntax. So first what I'm going to do is case variable when value. Okay, this is one scenario, meaning that is a variable, it can have n number of values. Okay, then go ahead with this option. For example, I am going to use p num1, so it may have 100, it may have 200, right? So one variable, multiple values. Write, simply I'm going to write it, I don't want to spend much time on here, so write 200. Okay, so when others is optional. If you don't want, just ignore it. Or if you want, when is nothing but else part. So nothing. Uh, Nothing in the list, whatever it is. Nothing in the list. Okay. So this way you can use the case statement. Clear. And another scenario for case statement is if there is a scenario case value when variable. So where or when you have to use this kind of syntax is we are reverse the syntax of case. If there is one value, multiple variables. So here one variable, multiple values, but here one value, multiple variables. This is applicable for option or checkboxes. Okay. So now I can say when variable, what is the variable name? R1, R2. So if you want one more, when R3, when others. Okay. So now this is useful for option buttons. So when there is a same value for multiple variables, use this. Clear? So hope this might be useful, and you can add whatever values you want. Write R1 selected, R2 selected, R3 selected, then go ahead. Okay, and execute it. You will come to know what is the output of it. And so this is about the conditioning about with if and case. The next we're going to see about do looping. Okay, so do, okay, let me have a different program. Looping, loop, executable program, save it, local object. Okay, so let me have one parameter. So I need a parameter number. So do, normally do n time. If same thing, do space because it's a block. So do and do, and how many times you want to run this loop. So simply you can say do 10 times. So it's simply write 10 times. Okay, so write looping. So it write in the same line because there is no slash. Okay. So looping, looping, looping. Okay. Let me do one thing. At the runtime, if you want the value, then just change to do this number of times. So this will decide based on the runtime. So let me go with slash execute. So I want 100 times. Let's write 100 times. Okay, suppose I want 20 times. Okay, it's a do. Sometimes you can simply mention do and do. That actually infinite loop, do and do. Okay. So here we are going to use continue, exit, and check inside the and do and undo. For that, so you can mention this as well. There are some scenarios. I want do and undo infinite times. Then I can decide when the loop should come out. I don't want to go with 10 times or 12 times. I have some conditions. So you can use it with the if. If, for example, I can say p num is greater than 20, then come out of it. Okay, then what you have to do is p num should be increased. So p num equal to p num plus 1. So what happens? It simply runs n number of times, try to run n number of times, and it just check if p num is 20. For example, I'm going to enter the value 10. So first time is no, not exit. Then keep on, I'm increasing the value. So whenever 10 times, after 10th time, it just check whether p num is greater than 20. Yeah, whenever there's a 21, it just go inside the if condition and execute, just come out of the loop. Okay, so execute. So how you identify, suppose this kind of scenarios, how you identify where it is. Okay, how you identify this is infinite loop, keep on executing it. Okay, you are expecting this report is executed by 10 minutes max. I'm saying development, it could be not 10 minutes, maybe few seconds, but it's keep on executing for 2 to 3 times. Then you came to know, okay, there is some infinite loop is running in the program. I'm talking about if you have do and undo in your program, or while and end while. So just okay, I want to know, right, what is the value after that. So write after loop. You can have a number of write statement, inside loop, after loop, to understand how the things are happening in the background. After loop, go to the next line. Okay, there's no need of space. It's by use to it. Give a space, give a space. Then execute. So greater than 20, right? So I'll just give 10, execute. So 10 times this first loop will execute, and second one is executed after loop. What is the value? 21. So 21, it came out of the loop, do loop. So that is for p in greater than 20 and exit. Another keyword for looping, especially for looping, is continue. Okay, so sometimes I want to skip. For example, I have some scenario, I don't want to come out of the entire loop, I want to skip a particular record in the loop. So for that, you can use a keyword called continue. What happens is, if you say continue, it will go to the next loop. Suppose for example, this do is execute for 10 times. Okay, so you are saying just skip the 8th record, or some scenarios, depends on the scenario, skip this sales order, skip this particular material type. So you can have a if condition. If the condition is satisfied, continue it. So it stops automatically in the particular line. It go to the next iteration. I'm going to show you an example. So here what I'm going to do is, if pnum is equal to 15, okay, I'm going to say continue. So I didn't use the tab, so that's why the end if is not placed automatically. Okay, so to identify whether these things are right, is going correct or not, I need a write statement inside the loop, inside enum. Okay, so I can say um, iteration, spelling mistake. Okay, so it will come inside till I'm going to example. Okay, let me command this. Okay, 10. So it will execute 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, 10. So it will execute 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. The 15th time, it just check. 15th time, this condition gets true. If it is true, it comes inside. Then it won't go to the 22nd and 23rd line. Continue means it go to the again the 14th line, do the initial line, again it starts. Okay, so that is the way the continue works. So for that, I need to keep this in the first one, first line, because what happens after 15, it won't touch the p num, means the 23. So then it won't increase. Then what happens, it's keep on running infinite loop. So that's why if you use do and do while and while, there may be a chance of wrong programming, or some mistakes. It will keep on running the infinite loop, so make sure. Okay, so executes. So what happens here? 10, 11, keep on 15, it won't go to the right statement. So it missed the 15th display. Then it go here 16, it is keep on coming. Once it comes 21, automatically come out of it. Okay, execute. 10, execute. Okay, let me go with slash. Even a small change you have to activate it, then only it will reflect. So see 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 is missing because I used to continue. If it is a 15, then continue. So it skipped it. Let's go to the next one. So that is a usage of continue. Okay. And another one is check. The keyword check. It's similar with if condition. Both are doing the same functionality. So the few differences: if has else if and else. Okay, you have an option. If this is not satisfied, go to else if. But check doesn't have that one. Mostly check is going to used in a processing block. Suppose I want to stop the processing block or I want to come out of the processing block, then mostly we have to use check, but in inside do and while also we are able to use it. Okay, so my condition is check. Same like if you can have the variable is reach the value 18, then come out of it, exit. You can have after check, you can have whatever condition you want. So this satisfies, then the below statements will execute. So what I need to do, I have to take out this right, because it will execute only, it won't execute because I have an exit statement before that. Okay, let's see what happens. Execute, activate, execute number one. So here it comes 2, 3, 4 because I started with a variable plus 1. So it takes the first one only. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 15 is missing because I have a continue. And iteration 18. After 18, after the right statement, I have a check. Check variable equal to 18. Yes, it come out of it. And after the loop, what is the value of the variable? Okay. So this is the usage of these three keywords: exit, continue, and check. Hope you have a clarity about do and end do. So what the do and end do means, this is do and end do, not end times. If you want, you can do it. Otherwise, you can go over with do and end do as well. But you should be little careful if you use a infinite do and end do. Make sure there is a scenario to forcefully come out, exit your particular iteration, because sometimes we might mistake, that's it, it's keep on executing it in your execution time. Now I'm going to use while. So while is also a block, ditto, same like do, but while you have a condition to initiate, you have the condition. So while the variable, so the variable is, I can say, less than 25. Okay, so here I think I don't want to use the same if condition over here. So right statement, I'm saying pnum variable, and I need to adjust the variable value, then only it will come out of it. Okay, no, normally we used to it in the while statement. Okay, yes, plus 1. So what happens if this condition satisfies, till the time this while loop will execute. So if we enter the value of the variable is 20, it comes here 20 is less than 25. Yes, it go on execute it and keep on, I'm increasing the value. So every iteration it keeps on 1. Maybe you can use 2, depends on it. So what happened? 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So 25 is less than 25? No. Whenever this condition fails, it just come out of the while loop. So you don't want to use exit things in the, if you want, you can use it, but this is the option, because do and undo forcefully you have to give the exit until you are not specified do how many times you want if it is infinite. But in a while there is a condition, if the condition fails, it automatically come out of the while loop. So I can say write out of while afterward. Okay, I'm going to execute, we'll just give 20 and execute it. So it says 21, 22, 23, 24, nothing much. So out of the loop, out of while. So after loop, what is the value? This is the previous one. Got it? So hope you might get some good idea about what is this. Okay, why the do is not executed in my previous example? Because I given the value of 20. Check the first line itself. Pnum is greater than 20. No, 20 is not greater than 20. Immediately it exit. That's why it's no, nothing is coming from this do right statement. Got it? So just go through it. You can apply the same if exit, continue, and check inside the while also. Give the same kind of functionalities. And if you have any doubt till this time, till this concept, just write to me and I'll able to clear. And the next video will start with next declarative keywords, tables. I try to complete tables, types, and constants, possibly some more concept also in the next video. Okay, thank you so much for your time. See you in the next video. Bye.